Welcome back to Kentucky Hemp Works Gaming, where I do two of my favorite things, play games and talk about politics. And in this case, I'm still talking about hemp. There was so much going on the federal level, and I kind of got in the weeds a lot on the last episode, so there's just still so much to talk about. I don't even know if we'll get through federal stuff this time, but last time I had hoped to talk about federal stuff and then get into some of the issues relating to hemp on the state level. But I think this time it's still just going to be federal. It really is the top priority right now for the industry. Even though we have needs in Kentucky on the state level, those needs are kind of superseded by the federal THC ban that's coming up. I also, in the last episode, really struggled to try to do two things at once, talking about issues and doing a good job with it, or like trying to, rather than just being able to concentrate on the game and vice versa. So not only did I die multiple times, I also said things that were incorrect. And so I want to get into some of that today. So where I ended last time, I just picked up the pendant of courage, and then I turned the game off before I got the Pegasus boots. So I had to come back and get the boots. That way I can travel a little bit more quickly by dashing, which will make getting around Hyrule a lot easier. And so I am going to be heading, I guess, to the desert to get another pendant. In the meantime, maybe pick up a couple of items on the way. The old man told me to go to the east part of Lake Hylia, and I think I'll do that first because I usually forget about it until later in the game. And then I go through the whole game without having the ice rod, which is extremely helpful. So where are we today? Today we'll talk about more of the hemp legislation and do a better job of it than last time. And also talk about one of the hemp bills on the federal level that I didn't talk about at all last time, which is Rand Paul's Hemp Act. Well, in federal news, the national debt is up to very close to $40 trillion. We're at $39.5 trillion. Which is insane. And I know we'll get there before long, but that is actually over $117,000 per person in the United States. And that doesn't count just the taxpayers. That's everybody. Taxpayers, you taxpayers out there, you're on the hook for $282,000. So go ahead and get started on that. I don't know how we're all gonna pay down our national debt, but no doubt Congress will continue to jack that up as quick as they can. So while I'm on the way over to Lake Hylia for the ice rod, we'll talk about some of the corrections from last week. Some of these things are just because I was multitasking, and some of these things are because I don't remember numbers well. The first big correction is this hemp ban that's coming up on November 12th. So I mistakenly said November 17th, not sure why. But it's definitely November 12th. So November 12th was when the bill passed last year, and it basically was good for a year. So 1 year from the date of the passage of that legislation, any THC product, any product containing any amounts of THC over 0.4 milligrams is going to be illegal after November 12th. What that means for us is not only that, adult use products are going to be banned, but also full spectrum hemp products, as well as the plants. I really got to concentrate with these guys. I mean, they don't stand still. The boss of these guys is the absolute worst. He's my least favorite boss in this whole game. I'm actually dreading the idea of playing against that boss and then recording it for the world to see, because I'm probably going to just get owned repeatedly. Usually takes me a few tries. So the next correction that I want to make is that the 0.4% THC thing. So I said multiple times, I think, in the last video that it was 0.4% THC, and that's very wrong, and I'll explain why. So right now, the legal definition of hemp is any cannabis that contains, or I should say previous to now, the legal definition for hemp was any cannabis that contained greater or less than 0.3% by dry weight. So 0.3% would be a minuscule number, and people got around that by having large products that had a lot of weight to them. And so a percent of something that's got a lot of weight, you know, they get a lot more THC into those products, and that became an issue for Congress, specifically Mitch McConnell. He seemed to be the only one that really had issues with it. And so he orchestrated his ban that was in an appropriations bill last November. And that ban, even though it is not really considered a ban, it's actually a ban sort of by accident. The bill was intended just to criminalize things with high THC content, but by writing it as 0.4 milligrams of THC per product, what that did was it made it applicable to hemp products as well. Okay, now we get the ice rod. Maybe I'll have a little bit of an easier time with some of these guys. We'll see. Some hearts. Another thing I want to talk about today that I sort of messed up on the last time was the Barr's Safe Banking Act. That I kept trying to talk about it and I kept dying. And, you know, obviously I got distracted. I was not paying attention to the conversation, and I pretty much dropped the topic of the SAFE Act completely. But I beat that boss, so that's what's important, really. So I think I'll start out today talking about the different federal bills that are out there that are from Kentucky. And there's actually several bills that are floating around Congress. And there's different sort of like coalitions of people that are doing it. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans. And we'll get into some of that as well. But in Kentucky, there are 3 hemp bills that are being floated right now. There's 2 that are related to the ban that's coming up in November. But the other one is Senator Paul's Hemp Act, and that bill has been filed several times already. It's not the first time. It's not the first time I made a video talking about his Hemp Act either. But right now, the one that probably does what I would say leadership wants to see from the hemp industry is Andy Barr's hemp bill. So Andy Barr's bill actually creates regulations on the federal level that are similar to the regulations that we have here in Kentucky. So in Kentucky, we have regulations on the state level that say that any adult use products or any products that are high in THC, the labels have to be accurate, and then there has to be testing that's done and demonstrated to regulators and inspectors, and of course the consumers as well. And on the federal level, we don't have any kind of hemp regulations, and I think that's great, but that's sort of what McConnell had the problem with. There wasn't anything saying that you can only use this stuff for t-shirts and rope, but you absolutely cannot use it for vapes or, having a good time or relaxing or pain or things like that. So their idea to ban it by just putting a cap on THC and saying 0.4 milligrams was, a fair idea, but the execution was terrible. I mean, you can't just say 4 milligram cap, or 0.4 milligram cap, and then expect that not to affect the industry in so many ways that they never even thought about. So I highly doubt that, when McConnell orchestrated that he was like, man, I'm going to screw farmers. I really want to hurt them. No, I don't think that's the case. I think he really, really has a problem with people relaxing with anything that could be considered recreational on the cannabis side. I guess bourbon is fine, alcohol is fine, prescription painkillers and things like that, all fine, but not cannabis. So the reason I like Andy Barr's bill is because that regulatory framework is very similar to what we're already doing here in Kentucky. We worked with the state regulators in Kentucky for years to try to develop the regulations, and those regulations didn't come fast, or they didn't come easy, and there have been several iterations of them over the years, and the state always has comment periods, and they ask you about the regulations. They want to hear from people in the industry. And that's actually been a pretty good relationship. They know that our industry really wants loose regulations. I mean, we want a good business environment. We want to be able to do business easily and comfortably and not be overly taxed, and not be, over-regulated to the point where it's not even fun to be a business owner. And it honestly was kind of like that. I mean, it was highly regulated. One of the farmers that I worked with in the past used to joke that you had to give them 2 weeks notice to fart in the hemp field. And that was a joke, but it was sort of, it was like dark humor. That was the reality of trying to do business in the hemp industry early on, when regulators and the government were still figuring things out, just like we were. So, like I said, I really like Andy Barr's bill. This is not the first time that he has supported the hemp industry in a big way. I know there are folks in my friends list even who disagree with him on a lot of things. I do too. But when it comes to hemp, he's actually been pretty rock solid on banking. So what we found in this industry as it sort of developed was banks were not really interested in doing business with hemp companies. At first they would just not even open an account for you. Later, some community banks like my own, Planters Bank, for example, in Western Kentucky, they're a regional bank. They've been very open to the hemp industry. Planters Bank does business with a lot of farmers, and I think they saw that this was something that farmers were excited about, and I think they wanted to jump in for that reason. Hopefully they're happy about that decision. But a lot of banks just shied away from hemp companies, wouldn't even open an account, let alone do things like loans or credit card processing, or anything beyond just simply holding money. And we've seen other problems with it as well, like not just the bank, like the bank themselves, but also sort of ancillary businesses like QuickBooks that doesn't want to handle payroll for a hemp company, or there was another company that I used. So Andy Barr files his hemp legislation. It looks great. He's already got support from other legislators. It looks like there's conversations happening, and that that something might actually happen before November. But there's some problems in DC, like, go figure, right? There's some problems with trying to pass legislation like that in the time frame that we have. So there's different vehicles that are used and that are going to be used in the near future in order to get the ban overturned or some regulations or whatever the case may be. There's a standalone bill, and that bill is going to have to get there's got to be a lot of support for it. They've got to get a hearing. They've got to get leadership approval to even start discussions on a bill, let alone get a vote. And most of those decisions are made in back offices. They're not made on the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate. These things are oftentimes decided ahead of time, and then all their debate on the floor is typically just for show. They're just out there, getting their opinions basically on paper and in the record. So there's not a great chance that we could actually pass a standalone hemp regulation bill on the federal level between now and November 12th. It's just not likely, unfortunately. But there's also the fact that the feds can't instantly enforce those regulations. Like, it's not like on November 13th, the feds and the states and everybody are just going to immediately start enforcing and throwing people in jail and things like that. So I think we're going to see something. I think we're going to see some movement, whether that's an amendment onto an appropriations bill, or whether it's a standalone bill, or whether somebody has some other trick up their sleeve that ends up being what we need. I do think it's going to happen. I'm hopeful. The music in this game is so nice. I just am so amazed when these music composers would put together these beautiful sounds with just this like 16-bit or whatever it is. They don't even have like a MIDI that is sort of basic for music production these days. They just made sounds on a Super Nintendo. It's pretty incredible. Some of the best music that I've ever loved has come from Super Nintendo. So ultimately, Barr's bill puts the hemp regulations back in the hands of the states. It gives some basic regulations, and then the rest of it is just up to the states to sort of hash out the details. Like, how are you going to prevent stores from selling to under 21, or how are you going to document the certificates of analysis, things like that. And all of that stuff gets handled by the states. So it kind of puts the regulatory structure back into the state's hands. Now, as an alternative to that bill, we have Jamie Comer's bill, Congressman James Comer. Everybody calls him Jamie. It's just a habit, so I'll probably do that. But Jamie's bill is a little bit different, as it doesn't create a regulatory framework the way that it's written right now. We've had some conversations with his staff and recommended that we include some regulations. That way leadership is happy about the bill, and maybe we'll give it a chance. Because ultimately, if leadership's not happy with it, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to get a hearing. It's not going to get a vote. And nobody's going to get whipped to vote for it. So that's one of those things that if you can just solve that problem before you even take it to leadership, it's a good idea. So the extension that it does, though, gives us, of course, more time. And if we have more time, we kind of feel like the plan is already in place. Like, the regulations have been built, the bad products have been banned. We already are doing this on the state level, and we feel like by copying what Kentucky has done on the state level, then it just allows the other states to improve upon what we've already done while having a good structure in place, to sort of build off of. Now, the thing about Comer's bill, though, is his bill was an amendment. It's not a bill at all. I say bill because it's habit. But his is an amendment to an appropriations bill, and as I mentioned last time, it's a military appropriations bill. That bill has to have support to pass as well. And if leadership doesn't actually have a separate appropriations bill this year and come up with a new one, it's possible that they're just going to do a continuing resolution, which is from what I understand, them just kind of kicking the can down the road, like saying, we'll just keep spending what we spent last time without making any changes. And sometimes, honestly, it's a good thing. I think when the government is, can't get along. I feel like oftentimes, if they can't agree on something, we're safe. We're in a good position. They're not raising our taxes. They're not adding to the debt. They're not, God, like I can think of a million things that they do to mess with us. But, what's this? Never fail to find. That's probably why I have to get every single treasure chest, because I was told that as a kid. Never fail to get all the treasures in the dungeon. Alright. There we go. This is going to be rough. I don't remember where the trigger is. And right now, Congress really isn't agreeing on much. For what I'm hearing, they're really having trouble agreeing on the farm bill, and it doesn't have anything really to do with farms. It's because of SNAP benefits. And so, SNAP benefits are part of the farm bill, but they're not farm related, and sometimes farms and ag industries get caught in the crossfire because Congress doesn't want to agree on something that they don't want to spend money on SNAP benefits if they don't mind spending that 10 times that much money on like a single war that we shouldn't even be involved in. So like I said, it's a lot of political theater up there. They're up there spending like absolute crazy, but then of course once they are asked to spend money on Americans, suddenly they're Ebenezer Scrooge and they're misers and penny pinchers who couldn't possibly part with a nickel. Unlike the rest of us who often have to kind of make up for the government when they fail at stuff like that. All right, let's see. We're not going to jump out of here, are we? Alright, let's see. Am I going to push these to get in there? Ah, there we go. Had to be a button there somewhere. Ah, good to know. Good to know. Fairies, great. Thank you. So I would say it's kind of unclear how a possible continuing resolution would affect Comer's Hemp Amendment. But I do, I maintain hope. I do think something's going to happen. There's so many people fighting in Washington right now, different groups, different lobbyists, different, parts of the industry, and everyone is just desperate to try to save this thing. So I think we're going to do it. Alright, so I came back in here and checked my map, and it looks like I missed something way over on the other side, and I have a key. So I think it might have been a locked door that I skipped before. I'm going to head back over there. We'll move into our next topic, which is my favorite hemp bill. It's the one that, if we would have passed the best hemp bill long ago, instead of farting around all these years and the FDA not doing anything, we probably wouldn't have this problem right now. But the hemp bill that I'm talking about is Rand Paul's Hemp Act, and so I think HEMP stood for Hemp Economic Mobilization Plan, and it was a great bill. One of the things that it did was raise the Delta 9 THC limit to 1%, but that wasn't 1% in the field. So one of Rand's big pet peeves about the way that the Farm Bill was written was that we're testing products in the field, and that doesn't really affect the finished product. So you have hemp plants in the field. It doesn't matter what percentage THC those hemp plants have, it's going to be extracted, it's going to be changed, it's going to be altered in some way, shape, or form. Even if they didn't change anything, like any processes or change any cannabinoids, there's still going to be times when it's concentrated more richly than others. So I'll give you an example. Let's talk about a full spectrum CBD product that's got high CBD and very low THC. So even though the THC content is extremely low, the concentrate that had to go into that product, the finished product, at one point was very high in THC because it gets concentrated down, then later it gets diluted into another oil, like a carrier oil. So if you imagine you grow the plant, it's dripping with resins. Those resins are extracted, and when they're removed from the plant and extracted, they're like a sticky resin. And then that resin can be added to a carrier oil like coconut oil or peanut oil, or our favorite, of course, is hemp seed oil. That's what we use in our products. But that carrier oil dilutes that concentrated extract back down to a level that is, dilutes it back down to a level that is acceptable to the government. Well, I've gone and done it. I've done it again. It's going in the blooper reel for sure. Here we go, Ling. Say your prayers. All right, back into the temple. Maybe it'll be easier to get back to where I was this time. All right. So what else does Rand Paul's hemp bill do? So the Hemp Act, it raises that THC limit to 1%. It protects interstate commerce. So interstate trade between different states that have legal cannabis has been a major headache for a lot of people. That's the government, it's trucking companies, it's producers who just want to be able to ship their stuff and not get banned from shipping like we have been in the past. But it actually protects interstate commerce and it regulates it. So basically it says that government has to keep it regular, not by eating prunes or taking fiber, but make sure that transport, there we go, of materials from legal state to legal state is kept regular and kept moving. Okay. There we go. First try, no warm up. So what else does the bill do? It protects interstate transport, raises THC to 1%. It puts the testing on the finished product instead of the in-progress products, which I talked about a little bit, but I think it's worth mentioning as like one of the positions of that legislation. And honestly, it's probably the best bill that we've had over the years because it would have resolved some of these issues ahead of time. I really, I don't know where this ban came from McConnell. I mean, I know it came from McConnell, but it was so sudden. It was just kind of out of the blue. He was the one who legalized hemp in the first place, introduced it into the Farm Bill, this little amendment, then decided later that he didn't like it. He didn't like what we were doing with it. He wasn't happy about what people chose to purchase. And quite frankly, nobody in the industry decided that everybody should be excited about cannabinoids. And that's for sure. Everybody decided that they were excited about cannabinoids on their own. They first started out thinking, this is going to be great for pain and for kids and all this stuff. But before long, everybody was just interested in having it for themselves. People are getting relief from pain, they're sleeping better. And, the only person who seemed to have a problem with it was Mitch. So for some reason, big guy just decided he was going to wake up and, he was going to wake up and choose violence against the hemp industry. So he did his little ban. And you know, sometimes I say that maybe he didn't mean to completely ban it, like maybe it was an accident, and instead of putting 0.4% THC, they used 0.4 milligrams per product. Maybe that was sort of accidental, and he wasn't meaning to wipe out the entire CBD industry as well. But then other times I think maybe not. Maybe it was totally on purpose. I mean, when does people in DC really do things that are looking out for the benefit of Americans? I don't see it. So, you know, I mean, if we were a different country, it'd probably be bending over backwards to send money to hemp farmers. But it's, you know, Kentucky farmers and U.S. farmers, and I don't know. Sometimes I think we should declare ourselves a foreign nation, and maybe we can get some attention. All right, I should probably pay attention. I got 3 hearts left. I'm doing okay. I wonder, bombs probably aren't any good on these guys. It's just sort of hard to. The ice rod. I went and got it early. Well, that works pretty well. Oh, I forgot he's gonna start shooting me. Shoot me. There we go. Managed to survive getting hit that last time too. Alright, I got my heart. I got my pendant. Beautiful. Alright, here we go. We're gonna go get the last pendant, and I'll probably skip doing all the side quests and maybe just get heart containers as I come across them, or like the really obvious ones, because I have just been craving some other games. I recently started playing Gemfire, which I remember playing as a kid, but I never knew what it was called. I couldn't remember, and if you're anything like me, you didn't just have like a collection of video games as a kid. You went to the rental store and you played that game for 3 days or like 2 days, and then you had to give it back, and maybe you never saw that game again, and maybe you're 42 years old and you completely forgot what it was called. But I found Gemfire again. I really enjoyed it. It's sort of like Risk, the board game, only you have to do things like feed your people and you know, negotiate with other countries and form alliances. It's pretty cool, and I remember playing it as a kid, like getting really into it and playing it for huge lengths of time. And I was trying to play it, and I didn't have the you know, any information like even how to play, so I was just going crazy trying to figure out what I was doing, but it was great. So I'm heading up to get the 3rd pendant, and I've kind of hit all my topics today. I feel like this was a lot better than the first time. I fixed the things that I wanted to fix, especially a 0.4 milligram thing. I mean, that 0.4% THC and 0.4 milligrams of THC are 2 very different things, and you know, maybe Mitch McConnell does really know that. So, I guess for now I'll wrap things up. I will go back to the village and find myself a good stopping point. And we'll be back here to get the 3rd pendant very soon. Actually, probably next weekend, because I think weekends are a good time, and I really look forward to it all week, and I'm glad to be here. So, I'll see you next time.
Kentucky grown hemp and trusted CBD. Feel your best every single day. Kentucky Hemp Works leads the way.